What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to tell you how you can build your bookkeeping business while still working a full-time job. My name is Zach Pasquarello, and I teach you how to start a bookkeeping business in less than 30 days with no experience. And I'm going to tell you my story. 3 years ago, I started a bookkeeping business and I was working full-time. So if I can do it, I know you can do it too. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into the video. Okay, so first of all, I know exactly what you need to do because I did the exact same thing 3 years ago. I just had my second child, so I had a family that I was supporting and I was really busy at home. I had a 2-year-old and a newborn baby, so I was super busy and I was working a full-time job at Amazon. I was working night shift. I was a warehouse manager, so I was sleeping all day, taking care of my kids, going to work, and simultaneously, I know this is crazy, but I decided to start a bookkeeping business. And to top it all off, I had zero experience. So real quick, my 60-second story. In August, I started taking my very first college class on accounting, intro to accounting. And then in October, I decided to start a bookkeeping business because I fell in love with accounting. And then in November, I got my very first client. And then in March, I quit my full-time job. So August, I got my very first accounting experience through college. October, got the idea to start the business. November, got my first client. March, quit my full-time job 6 months after I started my bookkeeping business. Okay, so the very first thing you need to do if you want to start a bookkeeping business is you've got to learn bookkeeping, accounting, and QuickBooks. I feel like so many people get caught up on this step and they spend way too much time on this step, and you might be concerned because you might be thinking, I don't have a college degree, I don't have any certifications, I don't have any work experience, but I'm here to tell you, you don't need any of that. And the reason I know that is because I didn't have any of that whenever I got started. I still don't have a college degree in accounting, I still don't have any certifications, and I still don't have any work experience outside of being a bookkeeping business owner. The most important thing here is that you don't get caught up on this step. Don't spend too much time on this step. I recommend 1 month to learn the fundamentals of accounting, to learn the basics of bookkeeping, and to get a grasp on QuickBooks. With this step doesn't matter if you don't have any clients. So it's the first step you need to do, but it should be honestly the step that you take the least amount of time on because literally none of this matters if nobody's paying you. So don't waste your time on this step. You can continue to learn and continue to develop your skills as you implement your marketing strategy, as you get your first client, because every client is so different. So you could spend a whole year trying to master QuickBooks, but until you actually get a client, until you actually start doing bookkeeping for that client in their QuickBooks account, you're not really going to learn everything you need to know about how to do bookkeeping for that particular client. So just spend a little bit of time learning and then spend a ton of time on the next few steps. The one thing I will recommend is that you could probably take an online college course and learn the fundamentals of accounting. Take like an intro to accounting class. This will give you a lot of confidence and a lot of foundational knowledge on accounting. And then also you can become a certified QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor. So get a QuickBooks account and take this course. This will give you two things. It'll give you the confidence and the knowledge that you need to do QuickBooks, but it'll also give you that certification inside of QuickBooks database. So if anybody looks you up, they can actually see that you are in fact a certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor and it's actually in QuickBooks database. So it looks super legit. Okay, step 3, this is developing your business plan. And the first thing I have here is a long list of things like a business name, your LLC, a bank account, insurance, EIN, website. I'm not going to go into details on that because that is all like common stuff that is pretty much the same for starting every single business. But what is specific to this bookkeeping business is your pricing strategy. So this took me a long time to figure out. I started by offering an hourly rate. I told people that I would work for $30 an hour whenever I was starting my bookkeeping business, which is ridiculous. That's way too low. But in my head, I was like, you know what? I'm making like 30 or 35 bucks an hour at Amazon working as a warehouse manager. So if I can get someone to pay me 30 bucks an hour doing bookkeeping with no experience, I'll take it. And I got a couple clients in the beginning to pay me 30 bucks an hour, but it's not sustainable. I don't recommend you do the same thing. You need to develop a pricing strategy that makes sense for you. I would recommend at least $50 an hour when you're getting started. Right now, I charge $70 an hour, but I actually try to stay away from the hourly pricing strategy, and I lean more towards the fixed monthly rate. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on that idea in this video, but you just need to come up with a pricing strategy. Either charge people hourly, start at 50 or 60 bucks an hour. It also really depends on where you live. If you live in the suburbs in like a small town, you might not charge nearly as much as somebody who lives in a big city, just because the cost of living might be a lot cheaper where you live versus somebody who lives in a big city. But I do recommend look into a fixed monthly rate. For me, I charge my average client about $300 per month, but it all depends on the size and complexity of the business. I'm going to stop talking about the pricing strategy because I could literally talk for 30 minutes just on the pricing strategy, but do some research on your own and figure out how much you're going to charge your clients. And then a payment processor. This is super important. You need to get a payment processor so that people can pay you. You can obviously accept cash or checks without a payment processor, but I use Stripe to process credit cards, and I use QuickBooks payment processor to process ACH direct deposit. Just keep in mind that Stripe charges me 3% to process credit cards, and QuickBooks charges me 1% to process ACH transactions. Okay, step number 4 is you need to pick a niche. Now, I'm not talking about an industry niche. I don't recommend that you pick an industry niche, and what I mean by that is don't just work with clients in a specific industry. Like, don't just work with software companies, don't just work with construction companies. Whenever I say pick a niche, I mean pick a service that you're going to provide. Maybe you want to offer payroll services. Maybe you want to do taxes. For me personally, I don't do either of those two things. I refuse to touch payroll. I don't do any taxes. I only do bookkeeping. And whenever I do bookkeeping, I tell everybody I do 3 things. I categorize your transactions, I reconcile your accounts, and I generate your financial statements. I really don't do anything outside of that. Sometimes I will help create invoices and pay bills, but I don't really do that. I only do that with select clients. And then another niche that you can pick is a software niche. So me personally, I only work with QuickBooks Online. I don't work with QuickBooks Desktop. And step number 3 here, the business plan, and step number 4, picking a niche, like this all happens, like this can all happen in one day. I just wanted to include these things in this video because these are super, super important things. So step 1, you got to learn bookkeeping and QuickBooks. And then these step 2 and step 3, the business plan and the picking a niche, they're not really going to take you a long time, but I wanted to include them because you need to do them in order to get started. Okay, so once you've learned bookkeeping and QuickBooks in the first month, so for me, on my story, we are in October right now, and I just decided to start a bookkeeping business. I'm still working full-time. And then in November, once I kind of got a handle on QuickBooks and bookkeeping, I became a certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor. In November, I started marketing and sales, and in less than 30 days after I started marketing and sales, I got my very first client. So this is the hardest part about starting probably any business, honestly. Like, figuring out how to create the product or deliver the service is pretty easy. I mean, everybody kind of does the same thing, but your marketing and sales is what's going to separate you from everybody else. And how quickly you can get new clients is going to determine how quickly you can quit your full-time job. So for me, for looking at a timeline, I knew I needed about $3,000 or $4,000 of income per month to quit my full-time job because I had kids, I had a family, I had a house, I had bills to pay. I wasn't just living in my parents' basement with no expenses. So I had obligations, I had responsibilities. So I needed to create $3,000 to $4,000 of monthly recurring income. And that took me about 4 to 6 months. That's why I stayed at my full-time job for 4 to 6 months. And while I was working at that full-time job, I worked relentlessly on my business. So during my lunch break, I would wake up early, I would go to bed late, I wouldn't go out on the weekends, I really didn't spend a whole lot of time with friends, I took care of my family, I went to my full-time job, and then for those 4 to 6 months, I grinded on my bookkeeping business. So I just want to reiterate that this is not going to be easy, but it's definitely doable. So if you follow these steps, you will be able to do it, but you need to commit to a 6-month timeline from the time you start to the time you really get good at marketing and sales. And during those 6 months, you need to commit to creating social media marketing content every single day. And the reason I talk about this 6-month timeline is because I don't want you to create marketing content for 30 days and then be like, oh man, like I don't have any clients. Like Zach gave me terrible advice. This isn't working. It's not working because you haven't given it enough time. So you need to create content every day for 6 months, and you need to connect with your ideal client on your social media platforms. I've got a ton of videos where I talk specifically about sales and marketing, but just real quick, you have to connect with your ideal client, because right now you are Facebook friends or you have LinkedIn connections with coworkers at your current job, your friends from high school, your families, people who are not going to hire you. You are not currently connected with your ideal client. So you making social media content right now is useless. So you need to learn how to make social media content. You need to start making social media content, and simultaneously, you need to be actively connecting with your ideal client, whether you're friend requesting people on Facebook or connecting with people on LinkedIn or following people on Instagram. Doesn't matter what social media platform you use, you just need to follow these steps. Do it for 6 months, do it every day, create content, connect with your ideal client. And then once you've done all that, then you need to deliver your sales pitch in the form of a direct message to your prospective client on these social media platforms. And keep in mind, you're doing all of this while you still have a full-time job. Most of us don't have the luxury of quitting our full-time job because we need to pay bills, we need to support ourselves and our families. So you need to continue working your full-time job until you get $3,000 to $4,000 of income per month, or whatever your monthly expenses are. Keep your full-time job, wait, develop your business plan, learn QuickBooks, implement your marketing and sales strategy, and then in 4 to 6 months from today, you should be able to quit your full-time job and operate your bookkeeping business as long as you follow these steps. And if you guys need help, there's a link in my description of this video. Feel free to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me. I would love to work with you and talk more specifically about how you can start a bookkeeping business in less than 30 days with no experience.